There's an endless supply of personal finance and money management books out there, each one promising to finally reveal the secrets to getting rich, achieving financial freedom, or mastering your money mindset. And if you look online, you'll find countless number of videos talking about the must-read 5, 10, or 50 personal finance books that can change your life. But here's the harsh reality. Constantly reading and consuming information without actually implementing what you are learning is just a form of procrastination. It actually gives you a false sense of progress without actually making the hard choices or taking the actions that are required to build wealth over time. I have fallen for this trap, and I see a lot of people still falling for the trap. By the way, this happens in the self-improvement genre as well. So at their core, most of these personal finance books are repackaging the same principles that are actually not that hard to understand. The examples and the storytelling may differ, but the fundamental advice is quite consistent across all these books. In this video, we'll discuss why it's important to get over this endless reading and start taking some practical and consistent steps after reading one or two books. Throughout the video, I'm going to refer to a couple of books and also give you some recommendations along the way. You might have already read these books. So it's important to start as early as possible, and then once you're on your way, you can read whatever you want. Let's begin. We live in the age of information abundance, especially when it comes to personal finance. There are countless books, blogs, YouTube channels, podcasts, and even courses teaching you how to manage your money, invest, and even gamble. Over 56% of American adults say thinking about money causes them anxiety. And these stats resonate with people globally. The personal finance book industry is booming, and there's a new book coming out every day promising to reveal how to get rich or how to achieve financial freedom. Again, according to a report from 2023, about 61% of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck, spending most or all of their income on expenses with little to no savings. So you're starting to see the disconnect. There are countless books and resources available, and still people are struggling. If you ask me, the fundamental principles of wealth building are quite easy to understand and relatively well known. These include things like live below your means, avoid debt, and invest for the long term. Yet most people couldn't correctly answer a basic question about compound interest. A survey from 2022 estimated that the lack of financial literacy has cost Americans close to $500 billion. This is simply because of poor money management decisions, which were actually very avoidable. I'm sure among these are people who have read and understood quite a bit about money management. So where's the disconnect? Yes, as stated earlier in the video, constantly consuming information and resources without actually taking any actions is just a form of procrastination. For a lot of people, it must be creating an illusion of progress without actually making any. So what's the takeaway here? At some point, you need to stop consuming information and start applying what you have learned. It's quite easy to understand. Imagine you start watching cooking shows and start buying kitchen gadgets rather than actually learning how to cook. You might actually be getting the dopamine hit of feeling productive without actually being productive. And same goes for money management as well. Now let's look at some key lessons that most personal finance books teach us. For this discussion, I will refer to three extremely popular names. As stated earlier, while the storytelling, examples, and writing styles may differ, the key message across these books are relatively consistent. Let's look at the first lesson, that is live frugally and below your means. This means you should track expenses to identify areas to cut back, like restaurant spending and subscriptions. You should also try to avoid any kind of lifestyle inflation. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US, the top 20% of earners spend 3 times more on apparel and services than the lowest 20%. You have to ask yourself, why is there such a big gap when it comes to needs? This is where books like The Millionaire Next Door come in. This book emphasizes the importance of building wealth by living below your means and avoiding excess spending. According to the book's research, millionaires have a net worth 3 to 4 times higher than high-income non-millionaires who spend more lavishly on luxury items. The next lesson is to eliminate any consumer debt that you may have. Did you know that the average household can have over $16,000 in credit card debt that can cost thousands of dollars in interest alone? Always remember that consumer debt is like paying interest on things you have already consumed and lost value on. And if you think consumer debt is not a big deal, remember that a $5,000 credit card balance at 18% APR takes over 20 years to pay off with minimum payments. The next lesson is to invest for the long term. Books like The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins boil down wealth building to 3 key steps. Spend less than you earn, avoid debt, and invest the difference for the long term using low-cost index funds or ETFs. For example, something as simple as investing $500 a month into the S&P 500 can make you a millionaire over the course of your life. What you need to do is to take advantage of compound growth by starting early. Invest in low-cost index funds or ETFs for market returns. This includes ETFs like the VOO or VFV that tracks the S&P 500 that has returned around 10% annually since 1926. Finally, the last step is to develop the right money mindset. The book that is very well known for this is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This teaches us the importance of understanding your money mindset and not letting emotions like fear, greed, or envy drive financial decisions. This means you need to avoid emotional biases like overconfidence and loss aversion. You also need to cultivate a long-term perspective on wealth building, as we just discussed. You must have heard of or experienced panic selling. That is a behavioral mistake that most investors make while underperforming the market. So now it circles back to the main theme: stop reading and start doing. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, hit like and consider subscribing to my small channel. Here is a list of key things that you should always try to follow. Instead of buying yet another personal finance book promising to finally reveal the secrets, take that money and open an investment account to actually start putting money to work. Commit to tracking your monthly expenses diligently for 2 to 3 months to identify areas where you can cut back on wasteful spending like subscriptions, dining out frequently, and more. Set up automatic transfers from your checking account into a dedicated savings or investment account so you pay yourself first before spending on discretionary items. If you have consumer debt like credit cards or personal loans, create a plan to aggressively pay those down by cutting expenses and potentially taking on a side hustle for extra income. Invest the money you free up by reducing expenses and debt payments into low-cost index funds that track the total stock market. Practice delaying gratification by avoiding lifestyle inflation when you get a raise or a bonus. Identify and overcome any limiting beliefs or psychological hangups you have around money. Set specific measurable goals for your net worth, savings rate, debt repayment schedules, and other things. Monitor and review your progress regularly and course correct as needed. Yes, I know that's a long list of things that you have to take care, but I'm just here trying to give you information. You can prioritize this list as you want, just make sure you start as soon as possible. If you're going to start reading any personal finance books, I recommend starting with these three and then focusing on implementation. Okay, it's actually just two books, but I want to recommend an extra book because I believe the knowledge from that book is extremely important in today's world. The first book is quite easy to guess. It's The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This book does an excellent job of exploring how our unique life experiences shape our money mindset. It covers important concepts like compounding, getting wealthy versus staying wealthy, and why we make dumb money mistakes. The storytelling and the timeless principles in this book make it a very interesting read. Earlier on this channel, I actually made a full video about this book. The next book is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. As the title suggests, this book lays out a very simple path to creating wealth by living below your means and investing like a noob. Now, just because it talks about investing like a noob doesn't mean it's not an effective strategy. It actually talks about a strategy that has and can work for everybody. The author walks you through specific things like calculating your savings rate and understanding asset allocation. This book is written in a very no-nonsense and straightforward manner. It makes it very easy to adopt into your life. Finally, the third book that I want to recommend is Broken Money by Lynn Alden. This book was actually written in 2022. I absolutely love this book because it provides a comprehensive view of the history and evolution of money. Lynn traces money's development through shells to modern fiat currencies and provides framework to analyze different monetary systems. The book eventually goes into a discussion about Bitcoin as well. While nuanced, she makes a compelling case for Bitcoin's potential as an alternative asset to flawed current monetary policies. Another reason I love this book so much is because it really makes you think about how money started and where it's going. After reading this, you'll also understand why it's so important to preserve your capital by investing. Again, I want to stress that you should start by reading the first two books I recommended, then move on to any other books. I just threw this in here because it's one of my favorite books. Again, remember that the key is not to just read the books but also create an implementation strategy for yourself. The first two books are more essential to creating that strategy for yourself. At the end of the day, the principles for effective money management and building long-term wealth remain relatively simple and timeless. Live below your means, eliminate debt, invest for the future, and cultivate the right financial mindset. The real challenge is not in acquiring knowledge about these concepts, it's about implementing them day after day, year after year through your habits. So it's time to stop the endless cycle of reading one personal finance book after another. Stop constantly searching for the next secret or hack to finally unlock your financial freedom. Chances are that you already know what you're supposed to do, so what are you waiting for? Go ahead and start applying these principles. I'll see you next week in a new video. Till then, keep learning and stay on top of your finances. Until next time.